Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to an episode of Gaming with Scott. In this episode, I touch on the character generation system that I utilized for the Marvel Live Play podcast. I've been asked several questions by listeners who have downloaded the character creation generation sessions on how it is that I ran through what I like to call selective randomization. What I do is the standard Marvel creation generally falls into one of two categories. Either you have a concept, ooh, I want to make a character like Spider-Man, or ooh, I want to make a character like Iceman. You have a general framework of powers in mind that you'd like to take, and the storyteller or judge works with you to flesh out how you'd like to build that character. And you generally take things at a relatively moderate power level, perhaps high, but you have a concept in mind as you move forward. The other character creation outlined is to generally roll up your powers from the player's book at random. You can run into characters that have a wildly skewed power base that may or may not fit a concept that you had, or that may just come together as a weird mashup. Marty's character actually turned out more like that, the character of Tomahawk. The way that I put things together, however, I generated a system, about 20 years ago, that I like to call selective randomization. The first thing we do is roll what type of character or generation that you have, whether you're a mutant or an altered human or a regular human or a robot, and that will generally give you the type of character that you are and the number of power slots that you have available. What we then did was sit down with the Ultimate Powers book from the original Marvel campaign setting, and I would have you roll two different powers. This would be for the very first power slot that you had available. So, for instance, you could roll missile generation and flight. When we roll for the first power and look it up, then roll for the second power, you then get the opportunity to do one of several things. You could select one of those two, and that would fill your first power slot. Then you could toss the other one in the bin and roll again for the second power. You would then roll a power and a second power for your second slot. So every time you were working on filling up a slot, as we moved down your character sheet to fill the available power slots that your character had, you would roll and look up two different powers on the tables. So there would generally be matter control, travel powers, body alteration, and then you'd roll within the body alteration chart or the travel chart, and you would find a single power. You'd then repeat that process for a second power, and you'd do that for every opportunity, for every available slot. Now, there is a bit of a decision tree that I've added to this. For example, if we roll the first power, and we had, as we had said, we roll flight as one power and mind control as a second power. You get the opportunity to take one or the other, or if you'd like, you could take both, filling slot number 1 and slot number 2, but in doing so, you lose the randomization on slot number 2. So if you find two really cool powers that you really wanted, you did have the opportunity to take both of them. Another addendum that I had was you do have the opportunity, for example, if you had matter creation, dark force, and water freedom, for example, and you decided that you really wanted to make a character that was dark force centric, or that had a list of powers that could affect dark force or generate dark force, you could, according to the list, fill in slot number 1 with dark force generation, and then pick one of the associated powers that was available listed for you to be able to take. For example, dark force creation says you also have the opportunity to take dark force manipulation as a side power. So if you take dark force creation, you could slot in your second power as dark force manipulation, thus taking 2 slots. You would lose the secondary power, and you could move on from there. This system allowed for each player to have a random choice between two, but from that choice, they could then begin to nudge or alter or accept secondary trees. They could slide their character in the direction that they really, really wanted to go with the power set that they were building or the background that they had in mind. With that, I believe it gives enough of the randomization to the character that it will not be absolutely everything that the player wanted from the very beginning, but it also won't be completely random. You get a choice. They're not always the best choices. Sometimes you get a choice between bad and awful, but sometimes you get the opportunity to choose between wonderful and fantastic. If the choice comes up, if the latter choice comes up, you do get the opportunity to say, ooh, I'll take both. But you lose what could potentially be an even better ability had you rolled a pair of superpowers for your second slot. I believe that the flexibility with the randomization really offers something that builds well-rounded characters that perhaps aren't exactly what the player wanted, but then again, it doesn't necessarily let them min-max from the very beginning to where they really want to torque a character, and you get some of the power gamers. It keeps that at bay. I like to call this system selective randomization. We use the Ultimate Powers book from the original Marvel game, and that was how each of the players generated their power set for our Marvel Live play. If you've got any questions or if you'd like to know more, please feel free to drop us a line at facebook.com/gamingwscott, or drop us an email at gamingwithscott@gmail.com, or drop us a line on Twitter and we'll try to answer you back at gamingwscott. Thank you very much. Have fun. Be the superhero you've always wanted to be. And as always, you'll hear from us real soon.